What's up, everybody? Welcome to another Sunday Trialogue. I got my co-hosts, Ricardo Calvario and Ethan Indigo. Guys, go ahead and introduce yourselves and we'll get right into it. Go ahead, Ricardo.
Okay, so my name is Ricardo Calvario. You can find me at X at the tag that is on the screen. I will also ask you to visit institutefornaturalphilosophy.org. You can have a look at our magazine that is free to watch and download, and have a look at our store because it's a pretty good way to support the work of the Institute. You can also check my books. There is Stardust and The Resonant Earth that you can find both on Amazon or within my feed on X. And thank you.
Peace, Ethan Indigo here. Resonant Earth is so amazing, Ricardo. You did such an amazing, in-depth study into Earth energy. Props to you for that.
Thank you.
And everyone should check that out. Ethan Indigo Smith here. I'm easy to find on the social media. No one's faking me yet. I'm right around the esoteric and the exoteric. Several books and frequently putting articles out there. And honored to be here with you guys.
Well, it's great to have you guys. This is another Sunday show we have. So let's get right into it. Ricardo, you were telling us about your topic for today. So let's get into your topic and then we will see where it goes from there.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for the person, for Flower, to telling that the magazine is great. It's actually great. It's a love work from people that work every day and make real efforts to present the best magazine possible. And the next issue is almost out. So in regards to today, I would like just to recede a little bit to our topic of the past, because I would like to invite anyone that has either anendophasia, which means it's people that have no inner speech, to at least come forward or tell us a little bit about it. I think that Headless will give you some contact where you can send your information. So either you have no inner speech, or you are or you have aphantasia, that it's different. So aphantasia is people that could not see images in their mind. So you can be describing something and the person will not see it. It's someone that reads a book and it just takes the words, and opposite to someone that reads a book and is watching a movie by what he's reading. So if you have any of these peculiarities, please do contact us, because we would love very much to speak with you. And now to the subject of today. That is also a form of synesthesia. So if you allow me, we'll read these few words in order to explain what this is. And it's called the Slider syndrome. And curiously, S-L and I of Slider is written with capitals. So the enigma of Slider syndrome, that is a captivating mystery that asks whether humans can yield an unseen power to dim the glow of streetlights with their mere presence. It's coined as the streetlight interference effect, and it's a phenomenon that draws us into the world where the ordinary flickers with the extraordinary, challing out understanding of mind and matter. So this was popularized by a paranormal researcher called Hilary Evans in her 1993 book called The Sly Effects. And she invites us to explore who claims this ability, where it manifests, when it began, and why it may occur. These are questions that linger in the shadows of under a street lamp. And if you have seen this happen to you, please do also contact us. So as we embark on this subject, you need to consider that this is some form of synesthesia. That is, in itself, the blending of senses, that like a connection. And this suggests that some sliders can perceive or influence their environment in ways science has yet to understand. So sliders are everyday individuals who report an uncanny knack for disrupting streetlights as they pass. But there are other aspects to it. So among these people, there is a woman called Debbie Wolfe, that is a British barmaid who tied her experience to moments of stress. And then we have Vivian Jones, a boy from Bristol that in 1976 also was reported having this kind of synesthesia. Our historical reach can go back as further as 1837 with an American woman who was noted for a similar effect, hinting at the long, undocumented lineage of people that have this ability. So these sliders, often unaware of their supposed power, as Ethan was just saying where we are discussing this before, and they might share a sensitivity akin to other synesthetes, which crossed with sensory wires could amplify their interaction with electrical fields. Evans, the writer that I spoke before, has hundreds of reported cases and suggests that no single profile emerges. So it's spread completely through the population with no special characteristics to be found. However, the consistency of the stories does tell us that this is not a random thing. It's something that lies within human nature. So in regards to where and when, the slider phenomenon has been documented all across the globe, as I was saying, with reports lighting up from United States to the United Kingdom to Asia. So we've seen that it goes back, unfortunately, only from 1837. Let me see what I can tell you more about this, for I don't read all of this. So let's see what they say, why it happens. So they say that the slider syndrome is a proponent that stem from static electricity. So a natural charge amplified by the slider's body, or even some psychic energy. So paranormal enthusiasts, for instance, like David Barlow, have speculated on that this comes from a bioelectric field that is unique to certain individuals. What can I say more? I just want to add this. Considering that this is an older phenomenon than electricity, we have to think, what was its purpose? Because everything has a purpose. So what was the purpose of someone being attuned to bioelectric fields or static electricity? Or could it be that they were attuned to the natural energies of the earth, like the telluric lines? Were these people the ones that were selected to find the spots where to build the monuments? Where are the conversions of the lines? Where are the nodes of energy? So let us hear. Hello, Shaman. Let us hear of your ideas on this. I don't know if you ever heard of this or not, but curious.
I've heard of it, and I've seen some people who have had this phenomena. The thing that gets me is that there are different energy intersections that happen within the human bioelectric field, right? So when you're looking at a person's aura, you can see it comes off of their body at a certain length, but actually it keeps going from there, even though it's less visible. Now, if you're talking about a person that is having this effect consistently under streetlights, maybe it's a factor in the human bioelectric field that is creating an interference pattern, right? And that interference pattern is following them around wherever they go because they're sort of emitting it. So I don't know if it would be a certain mind state or something purely unconscious, but there is that interference pattern that seems to be consistent. And a lot of people who have this also note that their watches stop on their wrists. You know, anything electrical that is connected to their body suddenly quit working as well. So there's that to consider.
That's exactly where I was going to go. Unless what you touched on originally about, I forget the word you used, but the congruence of energy systems that make up the human body. In Ricardo, in the description, you described the barmaid who had the experience more so with periods of stress. Now, I was going to point out the emotive potential. Stress definitely is a branch of that, certainly. And in fact, could be a really powerful emotion in the sense that it can really propel one to do things. A good form of stress might propel one to do things rather than to not do anything. But I was thinking of the electrical, magnetic, biomechanical system of the human body, also integrating the really psychic power of emotion. And I think that's when it really kind of comes about. And I kind of, I guess, think in terms of Tai Chi, which integrates healing and energy and martial arts. And there is a rule in most martial arts system: never strike first. Aikido, never strike in anger. All these things, and it's because you actually might lose that potentiation of this proper mind state that is empowering this emotive psychic potential that's beyond the potential of one arm and two arms coming together. It's kind of magnified even more than that, because you think, whether you're not or are, one believes that you're still in the right, and so you still have this kind of power. So the idea to never attack in anger, I think, is retaining that potential, even in that rule.
Never strike in anger is a very interesting concept, because there is this idea that you can actually feel a person looking at you. And I know that the ninjas would practice clouding their own minds when they're hunting somebody, so that they don't feel the energy potential sort of being transferred. And you'll see this a lot with hunting animals. They'll try and keep their eyes sort of off center from their targets so that they can catch them off guard. Some weird action is happening with this whole hunting phenomena, and how prey feel the attack coming. So
it's the intention.
I call that perimeter awareness, right? The more sensitive and grounded you are, the more your periphery expands, and you'll notice not only when, but who. You'll know who they are looking at you before you even see them sometimes, right? Anyway, my experience, but it definitely is a real phenomenon, and studied and engaged by, I would presume, police forces, because definitely private detectives, that's one of the first things they talk about when you're learning how to follow someone. Follow them, but don't stare at them directly.
Don't look at the back of the neck. That's exactly what is written in their manuals. Never look to the back of the neck of the person that you are following, because it's apparently the most sensitive part of collecting that energy. That's what gives us that sensation of being watched, right? That everyone has experienced. And so in their protocols, the first thing they learn, or the first thing, I don't know, but one of the things that they learn is, if you're following someone, never look at the back of his neck. So
we've got three different factors. We've got three different factors that are all coming together. So we've got the synesthesia, we've got the street lights, and then we've got this staring phenomenon. And I think they might be connected. There's some sort of energy field that are interacting at these levels with the stress that creates this. And what if it is a piezoelectric effect having to do with the hair, the fascia, and the bones, which are all piezoelectric, and how much stress you're putting on them to produce this energy field, right? That's what happens when you put piezoelectric materials under stress. So you have bioelectric factors, but again, these are not really examined as a whole. This has to be looked at holistically for it to.
The energy must come from somewhere. It has to be generated somewhere, right? But,
right. And you see a lot of this in the paranormal.
I would add, for your consideration, do you think that stress in itself, because I think that most of the cases that I know are cases where they have some abilities when they are conscious of this capability of interaction with the electromagnetic fields and lamps and whatever, traffic lights. It's more like it's described not as a magic power of changing, for instance, a traffic light, but the understanding of what is going to happen, when it's going to get green, when it's going to get red. It has this perception of changing of something. But what I was asking is this: do you think that stress in itself causes this imbalance in the frequency? And so this imbalance in the frequency, as we know, if it is prolonged, causes problems to the body itself. People that have high stress happen to have some serious electrical problems like heart and so on. But could it be that this disruptions in the force, because you were talking about clouding your enemy's sight, as the Jedi is saying that the clouded the future is because the Sith are clouding everything. So do you think that this imbalance in the frequency, this irregularity or this change in vibration is what causes the more clearable effects in your phone, in your computer, when you're trying to do something in a rush and the computer decides to go haywire, or the phone suddenly stops acting because you are urgently needing to do something and you are stressed? Do you think it is all connected, both with the body and the effects it has outside, and it's caused by this difference in frequency, or a pulse? Could be a pulse that is different. The pulse where the frequency is emitted becomes different. I don't know.
Well, you practice oh, Headless, were you gonna go say something? Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that the frequency that's put out could be measured, but also while measuring the frequency, I think it's important to have some sort of a readout, right? Because if you're measuring the human bioelectric field and you're not actually measuring the amplitude or the waves that are coming off of that person, you really don't have an indicator of how they're, or the directionality of those frequency waves. So you're talking about EM radiation. There's going to be a directionality to those waves that could cause.
You don't see it as toroidal.
Effects.
You don't see it as a torus.
That's the point. Even in a toroidal field, there would be a center, right? And understanding where that center is and how it relates to the other objects would be a very clear indicator of whether or not that person is engaged in, causing the streetlights to turn off, or seeing the future, or these other things that are associated with it.
Headless, just before you say, do you think that this could be related somehow with ki, that ki could be the control of this energy in itself?
Right, but that would be a more pre-atomic sort of energy generated. So you've got sort of like the field effect where you're creating waves in the primordial matter, the ether, and that point from where it goes from pre-atomic to actual atomic waves, that's the sort of transition point. And so being able to map that out, I think, would be important. But I do believe that there are pre-atomic effects and then post-atomic effects. So having that distinction would be probably useful. But again, getting to the point of measuring that's always been a difficulty. So you've got, Wilhelm Reich talking about the orgone effect. That would be kind of a pre/post, real close energy to, waves itself, So it's really packed in there. So being able to map that out, that would be a little bit difficult. But yeah, I mean, ki is a definite possibility. I just, again,
just a name for it. It's just a name that was given to it.
For the ki to be generated like that, I think people are able to consciously imbalance their ki and create that effect, and then other people are unconsciously imbalancing that ki.
Well, what I was saying is this is the unregulated form of the energy. And what I was saying is the teachings of the ki, how to harness it, how to use it, the opposite of that. That is the use, the intentional use of that energy for some purpose, instead of being something that is we are unaware of and don't control. That was my question.
And this is actually a crucial part of developing chi, is that we figuratively and actually seal the holes that are releasing energy of our body, right? This is kind of one of the qigong kind of instructions, and just not letting our energy diffuse. And a big part of developing energy is, of course, repetition. And it also is useful for measuring energy. It's not a mechanical measurement, it's experiential and anecdotal. But if one practices the same form or kata, if you will, you know what your energy potential is because you've been practicing the same thing. And repetition is really, I think, the trick of developing energy, right? It doesn't, just like with medicine, we don't just take it once and there it's great. It's a definite repetition practice. I was going to say a big part of Tai Chi too is the inclusion of stress. Not a lot, maybe not too little, definitely not too much though, but a tiny bit of stress actually enhances the energy production. And it's a pretty.
Well, what about childbirth? Did you see Sarah's comment down here in the comment? She said stress is a factor. When I was in labor, I had a light bulb explode. My husband had to sweep it up,
Oh, wow.
sweep up the glass between contractions. Keep the tall Shiar crystal away from Sarah Smith. She'll go full Phoenix.
A shout out to Sarah and you and Jacqueline.
Say that in building up a little bit of stress, it's really like a physical guarantee rather than like a woo-woo belief, just as you're guaranteed to get a runner's high. Like it's just going to happen. It's some people it does not happen to, but if you run for 25 minutes or so, you're going to get a runner's high. There's going to be a chemical release throughout the body, and it's going to be used because you're running. The body thinks you're running from a bear or to some food. But including that idea with the Tai Chi, where we're also trying to really relax, but we're also stressing ourselves out by imagining that we're fighting a bear. Excuse me, or our proverbial energy enemy or least favorite politician, as I like to kind of put it. But that inclusion of a little bit of stress kind of creates the same chemical format as the runner's high, but it's not needed physically. So it helps to regenerate and build on a balanced kind of stasis. And I've noticed you can be balanced down here and you can be balanced up here too. There's really kind of different levels of balance. And the Tibetan Buddhists and thereabouts and thereby, they may term all of these things that we have non-physical influence and power over as simply psychic powers that are in the process of our development, siddhis, SIDHI, that we should ignore and keep meditating. So these psychic powers, we're not meant to grasp and seize at them. They are very interesting, but these people that have them in their inclination without intention, that kind of means that they have a good electrical neurological system that even without meditation, that they're in a good stasis. I think that doesn't mean certain.
Sure. But could it be, and just for the comments, yes, Shaman, you're absolutely correct. And the person that commented before, he will need to go to the beginning of the show, and we'll see some 6 or 7 minutes where we're talking exclusively about sliders. As you commented, that was called slider. That's how we began this. Do you think that, for instance, the practice that we see of stressing the members when you're practicing certain martial arts, especially those that are supposed to concentrate ki, not all, but some, could it be that those stressing of the muscles is producing what Headless was speaking about, creating that piezoelectric energy, because the muscles will be turning around when they're contorting, the muscles will be turning around the bones and creating the friction or the stress between the bones itself? Do you think that itself is a creator of energy?
Absolutely. And not only the stressing of the systems, as you put it, but the depth or breadth of the difference between where they stress to and where they relax to.
Relax, exactly.
So some people, they're really only in this kind of spectrum, if you will, of their that's their tension potential and that's their relaxation potential. The more we expand that actually certainly potentiates our forcefulness upon the external world, but it also really potentiates our whole internal systems in a much more healthy way. And
Creates resilience.
it creates resilience and potential. Like if you're dealing with a wrestler that is super relaxed and then completely rigid and forceful and overpowering, it's really the brain can't deal with those systems of change that might be going on, that it's confusing for an enemy, and it really provides for, oh, you can't twist my arm, and or you can't twist my arm. So like these two different functions can be have a lot of potential, but also internally, right, to our health, which, like, is there the esoteric Tai Chi or the Tai Chi for fighting or whatever system? Are they for mind or body? No, it helps it all. It brings it all to different levels of balance.
So that's the interchanging between being a stone and being water.
It's a very healthful potentiating thing, I think. Yeah. I don't think it's the only thing in regards to what you're talking about, that certain ways to be tense or stressed is actually really, really good on its own, right? Rather than the, holding tension. That's a really non wellness inducing concept, right? So being able to tense and then turn it off, I think, that's the difference between holding tension is where most Western society is.
Sure.
And again, that really small spectrum of potentiation of their holding their posture, right?
Sure, and it's harmful in prolonged
Yes.
posture. So yeah.
Very good points. So, Ethan, what do we have from you this week?
Well, I'll just quickly touch on one thing we were talking about last week. I was presenting, a little breakdown of some of the recent events in the whole nuclear field, and I'll spare everyone too much. But one thing I wanted to touch on was, Ricardo, you asked a really good question about potential leftover radioactive particulate in the atmosphere, that it would actually be...
It's 10 episodes, so I at least I did one good question, so it's not bad. I managed it.
Well, one good question can change everything, can't it? Right?
Sure.
Good question can change everything, not just on our show, right? But I mean to say that there is the overt kind of frightening aspect of, oh, maybe it's depleting the atmosphere like ozone is said to be. But there is also and that I don't know, and science, I don't know the science on that one way or another. But what is likely is that the more radioactive particulate in the atmosphere, the more energy is in the atmosphere, and the more storm energy that we see, right? So it used to be there was tornado activity in like 2 places on the planet. One was in the United States in the flatlands, and I forget, maybe Spain actually. But it was really quite a rare phenomenon, and now we see it occurring. We see rather tornadoes occurring even in urban environments, which is kind of, it's not really, wasn't supposed to be the tendency anyway. And we see increased storm activity, certainly. So I don't want to say that it is because of the definitive potential radioactive material, but
so the electrical potential has increased. That's basically what you're saying.
That's really what science would dictate, certainly, and henceforth that there would be more power in these storms. But it's all hypothesis. But I just wanted to again throw the hypothesis out there.
Well, when it comes to cloud seeding, it all comes down to nucleation. They want to nucleate the clouds so that they collect more moisture and then spit out more moisture. So when you're talking about putting radioactive chemicals up in a cloud, the nucleation potential goes up because you're striking a lot more and it's bringing that effect together. So they could be trying to go for increased nucleation, trying to collect more of this moisture in the air. But who knows what the long-term effects are going to be on
Yeah, I
it.
think, or just dealing with something that they accidentally ended up there, and they're just trying. I don't. It could be both of those, really. Sometimes they might try to induce it, but I think it might just be remnants out there. But again, all hypothesis. What I wanted to talk about today is actually really simple, but maybe controversial. And I've had several people tell me this. I promote myself as I dropped out of high school and kind of became self-educated, and I'm just a regular Joe. I'm a little bit more obsessive than other people, so that's why I might seem to know something, but I don't present myself as that. Again, I mentioned that I dropped out of high school in my bio. I actually focus on really simple principles more than I focus on knowing complex things. So I just wanted to point out the power of that, and point out to like principles that might be as simple as those in the Kybalion, right? Even though the Kybalion gets flack for being, akin to cultural appropriation, and this guy said he was more Egyptian direct lineage and so on and so forth. You could criticize it for that, but it has some great material in it and similar principles and orientation, like focus on simplicity, and then things don't really need to get that complicated. One thing that I focus on all the time, to my fellow listeners tire, I'm sure, eventually, if not already, is the duality of polarity, or the fourfold nature of things. And I was exploring, I guess it is kind of a exoteric, political, if you will. I hate to use that word among you guys anyway, but it's kind of a cultural and political and certainly exoteric thing, but I think it stems from a very esoteric consciousness perspective anyway, and that is of prejudice perspective. And I'll share the article somewhere, but I wanted to point out firstly that there's actually this is not as objective as the following set of four, but I just wanted to point this out, that often enough one could use this potentially subjective breakdown of prejudice, or what people might say racism loosely, but it's actually prejudice, right? More accurately, one could be prejudiced in four main categories: racial, religious, institutional and national, maybe just say national, and cultural and historical, maybe just cultural to simplify. So racial, religious, national, and cultural kind of prejudice. It seems to me that keep it simple. One could break down prejudice into these four modalities. It's not just racial, is what I mean to point out, as we often simplify it. And in here, I'll just real quick go over the duality of polarity application. And actually, there's a great Einstein quote that sums up what was just said. The person who shared their little keep it simple, stupid. Any fool can make things bigger, more complex, and more violent. it takes a touch of genius and a lot of courage to move in the opposite direction. Albert Einstein. So he just breaks it down in his own eloquence. The most common type of prejudice is to judge and act against others because they are different. An equally common type of prejudice, and it's the contrast to the first type, is to judge and act for others because they are similar. And this is very much yin-yang oriented, very simple, not complicated at all. A less common and often overlooked type of prejudice is acting for others because they are different. And the last, equally uncommon part is acting against others because they are similar. So again, I could make different examples of these that could be put into racial constructs or cultural constructs that might be more easier for people to understand. But often enough, racism, really more specifically prejudice, works in one of these four manners. And they all are limited, right? Because we're not really looking into what is behind the door. We're looking at the door, and we're judging it as different or similar and acting for or against based on that. So I just wanted to share that, because I feel like prejudice is becoming more acceptable, and I just grew up in an era where it was just really not acceptable at all. And I feel like it is a limitation, no matter how it is emitted, right? It can be emitted in a way that some people might like it, but it's still a poor procedure. We should be, like with Moism from China, we should be equitable in our perspective on everyone, and not partisan and not biased by way of their appearance one way or another. That really brings us up when we're not hindered by that. So again, I know that's all simple and maybe redundant, but I just wanted to share that.
So you shouldn't judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, and that's basically what's going on in there, right? Because first of all, I would like to say that we are very good at complex. We are very lousy at simple. And if you go to science, we know the complex. We explain the complex, but we cannot explain where it emerges from. Where is the simplicity of it? We don't know how to explain how it comes from. Like, we don't know how
we don't even know what electricity is
or gravity, or so we have a science explanation of reality whose bases are unknown. So these are all floating theories expecting to be demolished by new findings. And luckily enough, they have been courage enough to tell us that they have been wrong, especially in cosmology, because what they're finding, they cannot say it otherwise. It's just, we are wrong. So we don't understand. We thought this is impossible, and yet we are seeing it. In regards to prejudice, which I would translate as prejudgment, I say that it comes not only, but almost exclusively out of fear of difference. And that difference can be within those four that you mentioned. It can be religious, it can be cultural, it could be national, and I don't remember the other one. The other one is?
Religious, I believe.
I said that already.
Religious, cultural, national, and
we all forgot to say. We all forgot the same. So
racial, religious, national, and cultural.
Okay, so let's put ourselves in the shoes of those rich, because they had to be rich to travel back then, 18th century travelers into Africa, visiting these tribes that are living in the same way they lived for thousands of years. Okay, with no evolution, which I find very curious, because we are so obsessed with evolution elsewhere. And you see that these natives, all they want is to keep their modus of life. That they just want to continue to live as they ever have, and we constantly go there and no, you're doing it wrong. We know how it's done. So these guys get there and they find these tribes of people presenting what they thought were very primitive morphological structures, be it of the face or the body, and they are black, right? They are completely different. So it's something completely new to them, and they see that this difference to them, for some reason, becomes like a threat, because they immediately consider them as inferior because they don't use the same kind of technology or modus operandi that the people of the 18th century used on cities. So they don't know steam. They don't use the horse. They barely have what they could consider a language. They eat things that are unimaginable for them. So they tend to consider them as subhuman. And as soon as they are cataloged as subhuman, immediately they are something to be disposed, controlled, or enslaved, right? And all of it, to me, comes from this fear of difference, because these tribes never wanted to come to the city and imply their way of life into our way of life. But we went there and implied our way of life into their way of life. And thus, although Africa was never a peaceful place, and they battle among each other with a tenacity that can be only considered as multiple genocides that prolonged into our days because of because they are racial against each other. Let's not hide it, right? So this is basically what I want to say. I think that fear is at the base of almost all kinds of what is the word? Prejudice. Thank you. So basically, that's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, no, I find that really valid. And the what is the anagram of fear for this is false evidence appearing real. I just want to say
perception is artificial perception in this case.
Yep.
So is the preference for simplicity a prejudice against complexity?
It is because
it's an experiential result of many, because I think it's the same idea as like we can't really, it might happen sometimes, we can't really do bad in order to do good. We kind of got to do good to do good. Same thing with the complexity. In our culture, I think this anecdote really plays out all the time. Elder man goes on a vacation. He meets a younger fisherman who's sitting on the beach by his boat, relaxing and having a smoke. And he says, "Hey, what are you up to?" He says, "Oh, I'm just enjoying the view, just relaxing." It's like, "Why aren't you out there catching fish?" He's like, I already got my catch done for the day. It was a great catch. It's like, well, you could be out there getting more catch, and then you could get another boat, and you could make more money. He's like, "Why would I do that?" It's like, so then you could get another boat, make more money, and then you could go on vacation like I'm doing. Come to this place that you're at right now. Oh, so like it's more effective in a sense to just be simple, and that goes for moral undertakings and so on and so forth. It results in better sleep, all these things.
Sure, and then he would not have time to be there looking at the view, enjoying his moment, right? Because people are using money they don't have to buy things they don't need, right? Entering into a debt. So you go and get a job so you can have money, so you can have fun, right? So you can have a life. But then you find out that you work, you get to home, you eat. So you take the cookie, you go to sleep, and next day you go back to work again, and you find out you have no time to live. And that's why people are then conditioned to these bars and pubs and discos, and it reach Friday, and they enter in this binge of alcohol and drugs on these 2 days, and then go back to their normal lives as if that escape was enough to compensate all the oppression of the week that is to come, right? And this is a cycle that I think people do not aware that, nor there is a way to get out of it. Because once you are into the depth of the society by your actions, by you buying a house, you buying a car, or you get a loan to get a TV or a stereo or a computer, then you are locked into this life because you have to keep on working in order to pay your debt. So you don't enjoy your wife, you don't enjoy your kids, you don't have free time to enjoy it. When you have it, there's so many things to do because you are working all the rest of the time. So well, there's no solution, but still I have to speak of it because it's extremely frustrating.
Arts, it's so frustrating in a societal sense to see people choose the complex and undermine themselves. And I think in learning and practicing martial arts, it starts here, really simple things, and you learn all these complicated ideas and maneuvers and applications. And eventually you come back to here again, where the simple things, the primary is really like the most valuable part, right? I forgive me, I can't think of the name, but it's the 80-20 rule, where 80% of the value is in the simplest 20, well, not simplest, but in the 20%, right? Most of your fruit yield comes from that 20%. Most of your meditative.
Hello?
Did I pick it up?
My phone just cut out real quick. Are you there?
Yeah,
Hello?
but yeah, we are here. We are here.
Hello?
Can you hear us?
Well, this is bad.
No, it isn't bad. We are here. You're the only one.
Oh, you are back now?
Yes, I am back. My phone cut out for a
I was
second.
just saying that the 80-20 rule comes into effect not only with agricultural or business models where you get 80% of your business from 20% of the year, basically, right? From those really busy weeks. Same thing with meditative movement. I think the simplest 20% really gets the most of the energy qualification from it, type of thing, if that makes sense.
Right. There is this whole East versus West idea when it comes to simplicity and complexity. So what they say is that in Russia, everybody owns everything, but they don't own very much. And in America, everybody rents everything and they have an incredible amount, even though none of it belongs to them. So, it's this, are we, is this complexity versus simplicity bias thing really driving, kind of the world wars? Is like, what are we letting people get away with when we try to make our lives more complex? Because there's a trade-off in that, and we're probably trading a lot of power to the people who are providing these complexities for something we want that's actually simple.
Right.
So,
well, and I think we get steered into complexity looking for the simple all the time, whether it's cultural phenomena or government control based on these international relations that you're pointing out. So it is
farming,
important. Sorry?
about the farming technique, how we relate to the land, farming techniques, all the rest of this stuff. When we give in to that idea that maybe we need to be more complex to be simple, it never seems to go that way.
I'm astonished that just for me, like, I guess I just, grew up differently. I don't do that whole like intermediary monthly thing, like on any product I buy. I don't want it if I have to do that. I want to buy it with cash on the spot, like to where people are like weird. They're like weirded out by that approach. Like, what do you mean you saved up and you want to buy it all at once? I have to talk to the manager. Like no one does that anymore. And I think it's just a strange mentality to even get the intermediary credit card company to do things for you. And it is, keep it simple. You just get your coffee, but it's a complexity at the end of the month when you got to pay, I guess, right? Just some percentage. But yeah, it's strange. It's like this very, very parasitic business model. Like you can't even have your seat heating, I understand, without paying a monthly thing in some vehicles now.
What?
Yes. Some extras in certain new cars you have to pay monthly to keep.
Oh well, you have if you have, for instance, TV reception or satellite
Sure.
connection, then you have, yes. For seats, I
But
never heard that,
I
but
think it even goes to like your
okay.
heat seating is like, all right, pay the monthly fee and you got
So
your heat seating.
let's put this into context. You've paid for the car, you've paid for the seats, you've paid for the electricity that's going to power the seats, but somehow there's an application fee to turn on the hardware that's already underneath your seat.
I
Nothing is
hope I'm
yours.
not exaggerating wrongly, but I think there are examples of this. Yeah. I hope I'm not exaggerating, but yeah.
But
Well,
w- w-
it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse the more technologically illiterate, because I've noticed that the more computing we have, the easier they make it for computing, the more
I was
technologically
talking
illiterate people get.
I was talking to my cousin about how the tendency for people to get the monthly option just as a kind of, okay, I'll do it that way. When they don't even have much money, like, and they're kind of like just at zero to begin with. And he says there's a term for it, and it's called enshittification. I thought that was great because it really just hits it on the head. Like, it's just, whenever you have to involve yourself more with institutions, it's of course enshittification, right?
yeah, but
Absolutely.
we also notice a lack of, from these institutions, from these companies that are selling these products that we all have, be it communications or TVs or any service that anyone has, is the lack of accountability. Because there is no manager to speak with, there is no person responsible. There is just a continuous from person to person. That none of them has responsibility. None of them is actual the person that can solve your problem. They just can't talk to you, and you spend 2 hours in a phone line waiting to be attended. And when you finally are, say, yes, I'll let me write an email and just wait for the response when our team has the time to watch it. So there is no one to complain to. Even if you have a problem, you cannot complain to anyone that can actually solve your problem. You have to go through this people to people that have no accountability on. They're just doing a service, and most
Good
of us
point.
tend to get angry with these people on the phone, and they
Right, you
have
can't
no
because they're not even.
responsibility.
Oh, right, yeah. It's
None.
a good point because it is a tangent that comes along with the grand enshittification that we're experiencing. Is any lack of responsibility, like direct responsibility, really? Good point.
Yeah, but we still haven't understand it. That's why we still get angry to the people that we talk to on the phone when we are trying to solve a problem and they can't, because we don't understand that they have no means to solve the
Yeah, no,
problem nor any responsibility upon it.
right.
So
I've stopped getting angry at them because I realize how disconnected they are. Right? They're like, I don't know, I can't help you at all. Like, you could try this office, but no, they just sent me here. Oh well, I don't know what to tell you. You have to call before noon on Friday of the first of the month, and then you might be able.
sure, if even the banks here are in a for the last years, they are headless. You have been frozen for at
Yeah, he's
least
not there.
5 or 10 minutes, but um I'm not sure if you are listening to us.
He
Can
was
you say
gonna do. He
I'm
was gonna
here.
do.
okay, okay,
I'm
Oh! He is steering us. Oh, good.
good.
let me add.
Oh,
So
he
How's
goes.
that? Is that
Yeah,
better?
yeah,
yeah.
that now you're back.
All
Now
the
you're
better
back.
way.
So the banks are removing the cashiers. So there's no one to talk to. The only way you talk to someone if you are going to make a loan. For them, they have 3 chairs and people waiting for you to make loans. But for you to take care of things of your account, there's a machine over there. You can do everything on the machine over there,
Use
right?
that phone. Use that phone.
Yeah. You use your app. Use your app. Why are you coming here? So uh, this is all reducing this type of accountability, and we are becoming more and more on the mercy of systems instead of persons. We are giving more and more power to systems and taking more and more power from people, right? And in terms of cars, I don't think people understand, and this irritates me a lot because I do enjoy driving and I do like cars. And is this promotion of the self-driving cars that I can't understand. I just can't understand, because there are self-driving cars, at least from the 18th century. We call them taxis. We don't need self-driving cars. That's just another removal of accountability, even on our driving. And in time, when they start implementing these new systems of what is it called, the social credits that people have, and then you get to your car, you have to input your destination before you go somewhere onto your cars, and there's just already softwares in line to do that. You go to your car, you sit down, you introduce your destination. If even if you want to drive, right? You introduce the destination, and the car comes back to you, or Alexia, or whatever it is, the AI that is in the car. It says, "I'm sorry, but you don't have social credits enough to go to that destination. You have to keep on yourself on this radius of 10 miles or whatever, because you cannot go," right?
Well,
And
there's the enshittification model that's actually being expressed really clearly in places like San Francisco and Los Angeles. They have these self-driving taxis, and as soon as the riot started a couple of months ago, the very first thing they did is torch all the self-driving taxis. Anything without a human being in it, anything without somebody to protect it or whatever, always goes up in flames first, with the type of society that they're building for us. So it's not just enshittification of everything, but now the only option you have is to burn whatever that thing is that was supposed to be giving you customer service before. And guess what? Now it's vulnerable because nobody's fucking protecting it. So it's the trade-off idea is so clearly in the direction of making everything stupid, everything worthless. If you think about the movie Idiocracy, right?
Idiocracy, yeah.
That has
Brilliant
to be
15 minutes of beginning.
right. So that has to be the direction that society moves in because they want fewer people in these positions, so they have to pay them less. Well, at the same time, making those, offices vulnerable to the people who are angry that nothing works anymore. So you've really shot yourself in the foot, and you're entering into the stupid age, and we're probably ankle deep in it. Think about all the tides of AI slop that just keep flowing around the internet every day. That's a rising tide of slop. And now without thinking about the end result of your policies, it has to go in that direction because none of these tech bros have it together. None of them. I mean, I don't know if you've seen Peter Thiel lately, but the guy is a total mess. There's no way I want that guy managing society, and yet this is what we're stuck with. So, I mean,
I was going to
it's kind
point
of a
out
stupid future.
there's one thing that there is no dichotomy on between East and West, and that is oligarchical collectivism control, right? So the steepness varies. I would say it's less steep of an oligarchical collectivist pyramid, if you will, in the West. But the orientation of pyramidal or triangular control systems of government, there's no rift between the East and the West on that. Right?
Sure. Look, this.
Yeah, but complexity is stupid, right?
This reminds me when and this is on the beginning of my book. I think I don't know which one of this, but it's there because I think it's a story worth telling. That is, when I presented my project to share my database with schools and universities, so people can access any kind of book and do any kind of presentation with more material than that is provided by the class itself. Among other things, the responsible for education, after I got many no's, I finally got to the top level. There is no one above for me to speak to. And she turns to me and says verbatim, our intention is not to increase the cultural level of the population, but to decrease it. And picking up on this and what you said about idiocracy, and you're frozen again, Headless, talking about idiocracy is they don't need intelligent I'm saying they don't need intelligent human beings for the plans that they have for humanity. So,
Right.
because with a very low level of cognitive ability, you are able to execute to perform the functions that they need you to perform. You don't need to be intelligent or bright or creative. On the contrary, you need to be the basic of the basics in order to just follow the orders and do exactly what they told you to do. So you just need to be a little bit above, I'm sorry, a monkey, to be able to do what they want you to do, right? Especially if it is a bonobo, which are very brilliant creatures. But so while we have this apparent interest in education, there is this huge agenda that masks and overlaps it all, that is constantly trying to make population dumber. That's one of the reasons is, you don't write dissertations on tests anymore. You don't write questions. You just tap boxes. You put X's on boxes and that's your answer, right? There is no need for you to create anything. It's all there. You just have to say yes or no, or this one is the correct answer, right? You don't have the chance to say, sorry, but you asking this, expecting me to say this, but I think this and this and this and this to be taken into consideration. This doesn't exist. There is no confrontation. And only a few teachers today have real interest in teaching instead of following the protocol, and do place this kind of interest into their students, to challenge things, to question them, to search for themselves, to bring things to the class to be discussed, even though in the tests they have to stick to what is the system. And most teachers are there doing a work instead of being a vocation. It's just a work. You follow your course because you think that's the one that you can take because of the grades that you have. That's the places where you can go in. It's not a matter of talent, is not a matter of personal interest, is a matter of what you can do according to what the system offers you, right? So all of that are limiting factors.
This is a very important
Brzezinski.
Go ahead.
Zbigniew Brzezinski said that in the 21st century, it will be easier to kill 1 million people as opposed to convincing 1 million people. And so that's kind of where we're at, right? So unfortunately, I don't think the tech bros are taking that into consideration when they're thinking about having this coherent society that runs along with AI as their masters, because that's going to be a society with a lot of problems. And that joblessness and that outrage is going to be directed at the stuff that they think they're going to be making a lot of money off of, because there's this coherent society that they're using. It's not going to work that way. The two things are in direct opposition right off the bat before anything gets built. So where exactly are we going if that's the case? You know, it has to be a dumbing down. You've got to hit us with the stupid stuff.
An important part of learning and an important part of teaching is not what is learned or what is taught. It is the ability, the imparting of how to learn. And actually, you can do this with a dog that you're training. You can induce it in ways on it to learn rather than to obey. And certainly they have, and the systems and institutions that have been presenting our teaching models are all about learning the thing, not how to learn more things, which is really, really important. And it's an important part of, I like to say that I share Tai Chi, because in simplistic terms, I teach Tai Chi. But really, when I get to sharing and practicing with someone, I say that I share Tai Chi, because it's same thing with a physics teacher. Do they understand physics? They will admit, no, they don't understand the entirety of physics. Same thing with the Tao. I must admit, truly, I do not understand the entirety of the Tao or Tai Chi. So therefore, I'm trying to share what I do align myself with and quote unquote think I know. So teaching anything, I think, should come with that, right? To inspire people to go, wait, you're telling me that I could know more? Yes, you please do ask questions, because you will know more, because you're about to know what I know. And then you will know more after that, one could presume, right? So I don't think that's built into systems so much, right? Unless you get to certain things that are esoteric or of physics, where there's these, unknowns that are dealt with all the time. But I think really we're always dealing with unknowns, and hopefully we should just, questioning is powerful, and we're not set up to do that.
I think it brings up the topic of artificiality, right? So what is genuine and what is artificial? And I think in a lot of ways, when you see something take off in the market without the help of government, that's something more genuine because people need that in their lives. Whereas if you've got all this stuff that's being put in place by a government top down, there's something far more artificial about that in these different environments. And I think that's sort of what our economy's been on since the 1930s. We've had this direct command and control style economy that's been obscured by different institutions of higher learning and all the rest of this stuff, where they're, laundering data and not letting other people have it, not letting the rest of the world in on these discoveries until it's packaged up as a consumer good and then shoved out to the economy. For instance, the internet itself was designed by ARPANET, so all of these ideas are kind of being laundered before they reach the market. And so there's a level of artificiality within the whole system. Everything we have is bugged. All of these electronics are listened to. It all flows from that source of power and control that we sort of find ourselves really deracinated from any kind of simplicity.
Yeah, it reminds me of iRobot. Have we learned nothing from it? Because
perhaps one of the greatest models of them taking energy into something that is kind of steering us away from what would be otherwise great potential, inventive, and prosperous ways is the subsidization of oil, particularly, but many different things. But the subsidization of oil industry and the command of the oil industry globally has really quelled any reason for invention. And I mean, we know that they've killed a lot of inventions overtly. Just in the very topical research, we know how much the oil industry, if you will, at large, which connects to everything, the car industry, the military industry, and not just in one country, every country. And so this is probably the primary
look at the utilitarian look at the utilitarian reward for killing a guy who's trying to put oil to bed. I mean, you've got billions, hundreds of billions on the line. And so spending a couple million to have this guy bumped off seems like a real no-brainer. Maybe even less than that, a couple $1,000s to have one guy bumped off, and then you could have an oil monopoly for the next 100 years. The cost benefit analysis of having these subsidized fields really doesn't match up well for the rest of free humanity,
Yeah, but we live in a society that is so proclaiming institutionally, so proclaiming of diversity, of
but not that.
Multiple polarities. So there's space for everything. There are still people that want to have a petrol car. There's people that would like to have a water car. There's people that have an electrical car. Right? There's space for everyone. But going back to what both of you were saying, I think what we notice is the distancing from nature. So the more we go into these systems and subsystems that are all helped by some kind of AI, even if it is just a program running things, we are, yes, Lucy Morningstar, the flying car. It's to me, it's quite a ridiculous thing because we don't need a flying car. We don't go on the street and decide all of a sudden I want to fly because there's traffic. Because if you have the flying car, everyone was going to take off and fly, and then the traffic will be on the sky and not on the ground. So either you were thinking that people will be rich and then we'll go to the road and say, oh, the rich people are starting to fly on their flying cars and the poor people are staying in the traffic. That doesn't happen because they go by helicopter. They would not go into a flying car and then take off. It doesn't make sense.
That's starting to pick up too with all of these driverless drone vehicles that they want to get out on these cities. So you can go from your high-rise workstation over to your high-rise apartment without ever having to see the plebes below you.
Sure. And how long to that be an enormous catastrophe?
Oh, because it'll be immediate. It'll be immediate.
Immediately. But look, in regards to what Ethan was saying, we all know about JP Morgan, right? So it's not just the oil. For instance, in South America, the way he gained the control over the diamond trade was very simple, because when he got there, he was just a guy with lots of money, but few licenses to holes, to actually places where he could dig. So he started buying the holes of other people's, so the license of other people's, right? But there was people that saying, no, this is my way of life. I bought this is my hole, this is my space, this is where I want to mine. So what he did was coerced or overvaluate holes around the person that wouldn't sell, and then his people would not allow the person to get out of his hole unless he signed the deed. So these people were there without food, without water, until they finally said, "Okay, let me get out of here," and I sign your paper, right? And this is all documented. This is all in several. Sorry, this is all documented. This is all in books explaining this that anyone can read. It's not hidden, and yet is still seen as someone we should look up as to entrepreneur, as a guy that we should look upon on his achievements in life, where there's nothing commendable in his achievements in life. Absolutely nothing. It's just exploitation and slavery.
The hedge
and
fund. The
Sure.
hedge fund.
So the problems with society come from the fact that we also are following models that in themselves are absolutely terrible to the next human being. It's just exploitation, extortion, violence, and that's how these people made their way into where they reached. Right. Not to mention that the money already came from behind. Money always has to come from somewhere, and usually it's not from a good place. So no matter how old the families are.
I believe all this stuff starts in the courts, right? So the very first court decisions that started favoring people with power and money over any other factor, that's when everything started to go out of control. Because if you don't have the ability to sue these people that have polluted your land or done these horrible things to you because they've got government protection, then there's really nothing they'll stop doing. So it'll just get out of control from that justice level first.
It even starts, to your point, it even starts earlier on the streets, where automatically the police officers side with the institution.
Not the ones watching this show. Those are great. Those are amazing police officers.
The tendency is they would admit this because they know it better than us. And I'm not being critical of them, because mostly they're being called because a person is trespassing in said business or getting uppity. There was a fight. So mostly they're the ones calling. So the tendency is that just to do that automatically because it's experiential, but it really lends to some people being screwed, certainly. But
in
whatever
2002,
happened, they side with
2002, there was a landmark Supreme Court case about a guy who wasn't allowed to be hired by the police department because his IQ tests were too high. This was in New York. His IQ tests were too high, and they didn't want to hire him. And the excuse they gave was that, well, he's too smart for this job, so he's overqualified. We don't want to have somebody who's overqualified who's going to leave immediately. We need the stupid people. But really, what they were saying is we need the stupid people because they follow the book. Going to side with us every time.
They follow the book. Look, in
they're not
Portugal,
going to think about what they're doing.
I have a friend, the person behind the page Middleverse, and he has a saying that for many years, that is, the fact that we see police and we are somehow afraid shows us that they are not doing their job, because you should watch police on the road or on the street and think, oh, good, we are protected, I feel better now. But no, you feel the contrary. You feel that they have something against you, although you are just a regular citizen doing your day life. So we should look at them and see, good, it's good that they are here, right? And no, we look at them in the road and say, oh, my dear Lord, look at the other way, look the other way. I hope they don't see me,
And
because it's
that's a
trouble.
really good point. No, it's a really good point, and it's often their fault, and even worse, by their own design. It used to be in the United States that police cars were to be particularly visible. Now you see a lot of police cars that are trying to hide that they
Yeah,
are police cars.
uncharacterized. Yeah.
Not only are there detectives that are undercover, that has been going on. That's fine. That's not what I'm talking about. Their cars by design are super subtle and hidden. Like, it's just a
Yeah.
black car. Nope. You get close to it and it's got a hidden decal, this county police. So it
Look,
used to be that they were supposed to be visible. Now they're hiding. And it also used to be that if someone was smoking a cigarette, you let them to calm them down. You didn't want to escalate the situation. That was part of their job. Now they'll get all uppity about people smoking. Hey, I don't like people smoking either, but I'm just saying that it's part of their job to de-escalate. They don't even orient themselves in that manner at all anymore, let alone smoking.
Right. And they're too stupid to realize it puts them in danger because they don't hire the smart cops anymore.
yeah, look, there is a fundamental problem in the action of the police, and it's not necessarily the people that is working there, but the rules that they must abide to. And for instance, in Portugal, every country does this budget in the year before for the next year. The state does this budget for the next year. So what is the logic of including the fines the police will be presenting to people in that budget before the fines happen? This is completely immoral because it forces the police and the guys that control the stations to say, we are below our bar. I need you to go out into the street and ticket as many people as you can because we are below our bar for this period of 3 months or 2 months or whatever it is the period that they have to check on with the state budget. This is completely
Quota system.
Yeah, so this is completely wrong because that should not be in the budget. That's something that we don't want to happen. The government should be assuming that people will not want this to happen, so we cannot include something that we don't know how many fines they'll go and pass. And now this is forcing them to pass. For instance, I was ticketed in 100 kilometers an hour section by going at 90 in a sunny day, right? There is some turns and so ever, but it's completely safe. And when I was stopped by the guy, I asked, could you please explain to me what is the reason that you are doing this here and now? And since I'm just so little above the limit, and the guy explained to me, the meteorological report said that it was going to rain, which is it's a lie because it's the middle of the summer. And so our lieutenant, because they thought it was going to rain and that section of the road becomes dangerous, that we should be here ticking the people that come over the speed. Oh, it's dangerous. So you don't go before the corner and tell people, look, it's dangerous road. No, you go after and ticket them. So if they have an accident, you are not preventing absolutely anything, right? And he said, look, don't take this personal. I have a colleague at home. He's suspended because he refused to do one of these operations. And so he's now suspended at home without pay. So I dislike what I'm doing, but I have to do it. So, and there goes 120 euros, right? And this is all because they have this value that they have to obtain regularly in order to be in accordance with the national budget that predicts that money. So I didn't even know.
It's a massive failure.
I wanted to mention that the New York Police Department, NYPD, you mentioned earlier, Headless, they used to have a design structure where if you wanted to work as an NYPD, you had to live in the 5 boroughs. They changed that in the early 90s, if not 90. And now you could live in New Jersey, you could commute to New York from wherever you wanted to live. And it seemed like, okay, yeah, it's a good idea. Let the police live where they want. But no, now they were not in the neighborhoods. They used to be, they'd be in the neighborhood that they policed. They'd be part of the community. And now they worked in the community as, kind of this commuter gatekeeper force. They all can't come in from elsewhere. They don't live in the 5 boroughs anymore.
That's interesting, because in here you cannot live in the area that you patrol. Because if you do, that generates interest.
Right.
Because,
That's
because you know the
another way of
people.
looking at it. Maybe that's why they did it too. That they figured.
So they bring it from 100 miles away. So they don't work where they live. They bring them from the 100 miles away to places they don't know and keep them for 6 months, a year, and then ship them to another place. So they don't even have the time where they are for those 6 months or a year to get acquaintance to people and start facilitating to someone. So they are constantly moving from one place to another, these young cadets that are the ones that are on the streets. And they never get the chance to familiarize or socialize or get to know people, because they are kept moving around. So there is no conflict of interest. Could it be the expression? So
Isn't that funny though? Because you've got these two different cultures expressing what they're trying to do is express the same thing, which is decrease the amount of corruption, and they do it the exact opposite ways, which shows that hey, there's a major perspective problem. If you're not going according to the culture, then you're not actually helping anybody. So how interested are our political leaders in reflecting the values of the people who elected them? Not at all.
And I was thinking,
you
it's there's no one solution for things, right? It's just a matter of coming together and looking for a solution. But like, I forget who said it, but all logic is flawed. So it's like, yeah, either one of those could work. Either one of those systems could actually work in a beneficial manner, but maybe not.
It depends on the cultural context, right?
Yeah.
If there's a problem with corruption, so I mean that's a really important distinction, I think. So I brought today Ida P. Rolfe, if you guys have ever heard of her. Ida Pauline Rolfe, May 19, 1896 to March 19th, 1979, was a biochemist and the creator of structural integration, later termed Rolfing, a type of manual therapy that claims to align the human body's so-called energy field and Earth's gravity. So let's get into Rolfing. It's also called structural integration. Later known as Rolfing, is a type of manual therapy that claims to improve human biochemical functioning. Rolfe began developing her system in the 1940s. Her main goal was to organize the human bodily structure in relation to gravity. She's a biophysicist. Rolfe called her method structural integration, also called Rolfing. Her publications about the therapy include 1987's Vertical Experiential Side to Human Potential, 1973 Structural Integration, Contribution, Understanding of Stress, California Psychophysica, and Rolfing, Reestablishing the Natural Alignment and Structural Integration of the Human Body. So basically what Rolfing tries to do is it tries to manipulate the fascia in a way that realigns the bones and ligaments to their proper places. And the way you determine that is by looking at the whole body figure and figure out where those weaknesses are. So it's kind of an integration of the original ideas in chiropractic, and then using that in a more muscular facial, way. So you're talking about fascia and muscles realigning the organs and bones underneath, because these are the structures that hold everything in place. And when you can manipulate the fascia, you can manipulate the things that they are holding in place. So Rolfing was based around the geometric relationship that different parts of the body had to each other. And so realigning that created a better sense of wellness. So Rolfing is called the pseudoscience from all of the top, whatever you want to call them, because it's very hard to prove the geometric angle to it. But at the same time, it's kind of obvious. Like things are in geometric proportion in the body for a reason. Oh, I guess he dropped out. But yeah, so here we go. Add to stage. There you are. So Ida P. Rolf came up with Rolfing, and it's still used in sports therapy today. Like that's the big application is the sports Rolfing therapists who make hundreds of thousands of dollars after taking a weekend course of Rolfing at one of Ida P. Rolf's.
Weekend
Uh,
course.
yeah, really. And so they're going off to make all this money because all of these, athletes really use it and it helps a lot. So, but it's pseudoscience because they can't get their heads around the usage. So, yeah, if you wanna make hundreds of thousands of dollars, start doing Rolfing courses. They're not that expensive, and
That that's amazing.
they get hired.
I'm gonna look into that as a Tai Chi teacher, right? I need to be a Rolfer. And actually, a Tai Chi teacher of mine was also a Rolfer, and he worked at a university, a small university, but a college rather. And Tai Chi is all about what do they always talk about it in terms of internal arts, the internal arts, and this and that. Well, a whole appropriation series of applications of Tai Chi and or other systems, it would be called Chin Na, not China, but Chin Na, and that is joint locks. And Chin Na, when done effectively, it can be very exertive, and you're not really going in an internal art manner to the fascia. But there's certain ways to press, pull, and manipulate on the body that goes internal to your opposition or would be opposition, and even in practice, like pushing hands, which is like Tai Chi sumo wrestling, if you will, but certainly not as exertive. But it's all about manipulating the fascia, and so it will sometimes look like it's fake. There's a lot of fakery out there, but it's like, how did you do that, or were you exaggerating my push? No, it just at the right kind of, talk about alignment with gravity. When the practitioner that's putting out energy is aligned with gravity and so on and so forth at just the right time, when the other person is not aligned, it looks like it was fake, right?
Right.
And so, yeah, Rolfing is really representing some of the main aspects of Tai Chi practice towards healing and dealing with external energies, gravity and oppositional being the main ones. But it's all about softening and holding ourselves in a different way, and it very, very interesting tie-ins.
Yeah, lots of Pythagorean tie-ins as well. You got a lot of phi going on when they're talking about how to measure and figuring out how the body is in misalignment. So if you know your phi, I mean that's a perfect application. I mean your hand is in phi, the rest of your body is in phi, and once you understand that ratio and how it's supposed to be, you can start to find the subtle differences that cause misalignment within the body.
And it's counterintuitive from my experience and from all I've learned. Like sometimes when we're dealing with maybe pushing a refrigerator or dealing with pushing a person, we want to put ourselves in a way that's like really low and forceful and get into it. And actually what happens a lot is that if we just keep our back straight, we actually have more potentiation. And it's kind of counterintuitive that it happens that way, but it does. And
Well, if it is a fridge, I recommend to get really low because the weight is all on the base.
Certainly.
Don't push on top.
Maybe a bad example that you have to get low because it will teeter over. But
it's what you're saying. It's the understanding of the other sense of gravity that you have to have in order to do that push efficiently. That's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
Well, think about bipedalism versus on four legs, quadrupedalism. You've got a different ratio, a different angle for the hips going into the ball and socket joint for bipedalism versus a 90-degree angle for, quadrupeds. So the very idea of being bipedal implies that you would have a better balance point using the
When
natural ratios of the body.
if
And
you ever
unless
watch, oh, go ahead.
go on, Ethan. I was just making a joke.
Gonna
You go
say,
on.
if you ever watch Bruce Lee move, or actually any experienced and adept kung fu practitioner in their presentation forms or fighting, they can almost move as if they have tripodal behavior. And Bruce Lee kind of talked about this, and the idea of a dragon tail, and the dragon in martial arts is all about using alignment in a way that we're our back is upright, for instance, and so forth, and we almost have like a tail, right, energetically, and even by imagination. It's a weird kind of thing, but you can almost see when people are moving almost like they're tripodal. And
It's
that's
it's
Well, if you
it's
can
a
imagine,
perfect use of momentum. I think can be explained by that, right?
yeah. I think there's a bunch of different ways it comes up, but perfect use of momentum is a great way to look at it.
if you can imagine your way into stress, you can imagine your way into having a different center of balance. I think there's a linkage between, how we think of ourselves and how we balance on the planet as well. So that I think that's one of the major reasons why people find themselves in misalignment is because they're not imagining the proper central core of their being.
That's
Well,
great. Great
I think
analogy.
that's a great definition for the people that have been shown that now identify as animals, and so they walk everywhere on four legs, right? So well, I tried to belong to the club, but they didn't accept me because I identify as a black lesbian born in Mongolia, and they didn't accept me for some reason. But you have these people that now think they don't think. I can't believe that they think
No,
that they
I've
are
seen
animals.
this. I've seen this phenomenon. It's
So
very wild.
because it is in the best, more kind way that I can say, it's a sickness of the mind, because there's something wrong. It reaches a level of novelty where it seems there is nothing more to explore than to become something that is completely alien to the human condition, right?
I think that is why, or one could deduce or make reason for why in Tai Chi we talk about postures, right? To headless your point of how we hold ourselves mentally and emotionally and physically, right? It's all unified in our posture, emotionally, physically, and thereby. And that also beckons to why it is called the form, postures of the form, right? Because we want to be in a certain formation that is at balance and then maybe a higher balance, right? And yeah, I think all these things are really interesting way to like use our mind to posture ourselves, right? And a mind body to posture ourselves.
Absolutely. Well, this was a great episode, guys. We're right at about 1 hour 30. So I think that's a good place to cut it off. Why don't you tell the people where they can find you? Go ahead, Ricardo.
Ethan. Okay, so
Oh,
you go, Ethan. Go, Ethan. Go.
I'm on all the usual social media and all the usual suspects. Articles coming frequently or infrequently, and I got a bunch of writing available, and appreciate you guys.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Go ahead, Ricardo.
So first of all, I would just remind people, if you have no inner dialogue or if you are unable to visualize things in your mind, do reach out, because we'd like to have a chat with you and try to understand that phenomenon and how you live your daily lives without those two characteristics that some people take for granted and believe necessary to perform in our society. So you can find me at at Ricardo Calvary at X, as is in the screen. Again, I encourage you to go and visit institutefornaturalphilosophy.org. You have our magazine, you have our store, you have places where you can go in and fill in your file if you want to collaborate with us. And that's it. Thank you. It was a great conversation as usual. Thank you both. And thank you to everyone that's been watching and to the bright comments. We have better and bad comments every time.
Yeah, thanks for the comment and the crew, everybody.
Absolutely.
Thank you guys for showing up. Thank you, commenters. And if you have any paranormal or occult or strange dream stories, email me at headlessgiantpodcast@gmail.com, and I will read those on Thursdays. Guys, get in there and have a good time. So thank you. We'll see you again next time on the Trialoge.